Oh, by the way, what happened in the first one?
They sum it up in the movie. Shenanigans.
Yeah, I guess that's what
I had to think about it too, because I saw the first one when it first came out, and I put up a poll earlier, like, for what the grade predictions would be. I think it might be the first one where the one that was in the lead was people predicting we'd give it an F. It's either that or C. 31% said C, 30% said F, and then a lot of the comments said, well, now let me remind you, he did really, really love the first one, which I did. I loved the hell out of the first movie.
Now here's the real question. Have you read the book?
No.
Neither have I. And I had an old girlfriend who had a really funny response to that, because I can't remember the movie it came. No, I wasn't with her yet. But like, I think we walked by the book. I said, I never read Peter Rabbit. And she goes, it's actually about a turtle. And that made me laugh so hard. I don't know why.
That's why I'm wearing my It clothes.
I just love the idea that a book called Peter Rabbit is about a completely different animal.
The first one I thought was a nice surprise. Like,
That's what I hear, because it looked terrible.
Yeah.
And then everyone said it was actually pretty good.
And then this one, I went into the first one with pretty low expectations. Came out and really, really loved the movie. This one I also went into with pretty low expectations, because, I did love the first one, but it's a sequel, and it kind of seemed like there's a lot of times where it happens where a movie comes out, and it's a good surprise. The second one comes out, and it kind of turns out to be the movie you feared the first one would be. Mm-hmm. This one I also thought was a really nice surprise.
I'm somewhere in the middle, because, like, every maybe 10 minutes, I laughed hard.
Yeah.
Like, there are some surreal, out there jokes where I'm like, oh my God, is that funny?
Yeah.
And unexpected and so clever.
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of gotta sit through a lot of groaners and, well, that was a good try movie and stuff, but it wasn't like god awful. I could still see like little kids enjoying it and stuff, and there's one or the trickiest thing about this movie, which it really walks this tightrope like just well enough in my opinion, is that it's making fun of selling out and corporate manipulation and stuff like that, because the author in this, the book is going to be, you know, a big-time published book. I mean, like thousands and thousands of copies, and they're already working on the movie deal and stuff, and they're talking about all the things they want to do with it that she says is against the original vision and they shouldn't do it. And then in the climax, they do it all, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, that's pretty fucking clever.
Yeah, halfway through, it turns into a kids' movie version of Adaptation.
Yeah, there are some jokes in this that really had like a Lord and Miller feel. Like, did you ever see the 21 Jump Street movies? Yeah, the sequel especially, I thought was so clever at mocking what sequels do. And there are some chunks of this where I'm just like, yeah, this is like the kid version of that, and it's pretty good. But you do gotta sit through a lot of, you know, quiet moments after a joke where they look at the camera like,
Yeah, that part. So a lot of the really self-aware stuff it was doing, more often than not, I thought it was doing it well. How it's a movie that's a sequel. In the movie, they're wanting her to make a sequel to the book, but wanting it to be set in space and do all this outlandish
which
stuff.
We were saying to each other throughout the whole thing, I don't know, I kind of want to read this book that they're talking about.
And they make Peter Rabbit look like a demon on all the promotional material, like he's a horror movie villain. Most of that I was really digging. There were a couple of times, like you said, where it was a little too on the nose, where they do make one of the rabbits look directly at the camera, or I'm like, you didn't need to do that. Like, I got it. Like,
yeah, there are a couple jokes where it's like, oh, that's a good joke, and then they would kind of Family Guy it a little bit and go like 2 or 3 steps further, which most of the time didn't work, sometimes worked really well.
I gotta give it to that about this, was like, whenever there would be one of those jokes that lands, it would be in one of those where it's going on a while. Usually they would stick the landing on it.
Yeah, some of the landings are just, and again, they just get wildly imaginative.
Yeah.
There's one, the first one, it took a while, but the first one where it got a real good laugh, this badger stealing some tomatoes, and Peter Rabbit's like, hand it over, and he hands it to him, he goes, and he hands another one, and he keeps pulling it out of different places, out of his ear, out of his armpit. That's a cute bit, whatever. And then he goes, and literally out of thin air, he gets a crate of tomatoes and gives it to him. And you don't, like, it literally looks like he just makes it appear out of thin air. And that was so funny. I mean, you saw me. I was covering my mouth laughing. That was so funny.
And I do agree, like, the first movie I liked better. This movie was still better than I thought it was going to be. But the first one was a better film. But you're right, there are a lot of times in this movie where jokes are just kind of there. Like, I'm not really rolling my eyes or anything, but they didn't necessarily get a laugh. But, and this happens a lot in the movie too, when the movie would get a really big laugh out of me, it was huge. There were a couple times in this I was near crying, like, how funny some of this shit was. And I gotta give it to that. Like, if there's a few that don't work, they make it up. The movie has a couple of times where it was the loudest I'd probably laughed in a movie this year. And that did kind of make me forget about a couple things that maybe would come before it that didn't quite work, because boy, when it does, I was just out loud laughing at this.
The part where I said, because I was on the fence, and then there's a part where they're talking about what they do not want in the climax of her book, and I was saying to myself, if they do not do all of these, I'm really not going to like this movie, because it's going to be so hypocritical. But sure enough, it comes through in the climax, and it's very funny.
And there was still some surprising sight gags in it, where they steal some shit from this store, and instead of the shop owner coming out and just kind of shaking his fist, no, the guy gets on a motorcycle to chase after them in this high-speed chase. Man, yeah, it was a really good climax.
The story as well is one of those where, and I say this both as a pro and a con, it doesn't really stay focused that much, because there's a point where they're robbing this farmer's market, and it's at one moment I just said, why are they doing this? Like, why is Peter doing this? Why is he getting the other people? Because, well, everyone thinks I'm a bad seed. Then you're doing bad stuff? What? Like, it did not make a whole lot of sense, but even the movie kind of plays around with that. Like, they're playing around with, like, the conventions and the motivations, and they're kind of like, we really don't care. Even, like, in the last third, I think sort of just before the climax, where the villains are doing kind of a big reveal, it's one of those things where they're kind of rushing it so quickly, and you even forget what even like some of the villains are up to, and what their motivations are and stuff, where they're just like, yeah, we know, we're just in it for fun. And it's like, all right, okay, true. And they still gotta say the message at the end, but even they kind of say, they want me to end the book that way. Oh, what a corny way to end the book. Yeah. So even they're kind of mocking it. Yeah. So it didn't bother me too much, as long as they keep trying to do something that's clever and fun, and a lot of that is the visual gags and the verbal humor and stuff like that, which enough of them worked for me, and like you said, when they worked, they really worked.
My God. More so than a lot of comedies I've seen this year. Like, there are jokes that really, really land in this. And for a while in the movie, it is kind of two different movies going on at the same time, whether it's the stuff with Rose Byrne and Domhnall Gleeson and the heist plot line. But I was following both of them just fine. I mean, they both tie into each other pretty well in the third act of the movie, but there are a lot of times when it doesn't have the best focus in the world, but better than last week when I was at Conjuring 3, where about halfway through I'm like, I'm kind of having trouble following the thread in this.
Yeah, it starts out with a boy being exorcised, and then suddenly there's like a ritual happening under a farm, and this couple is involved, and they're getting possessed. It's like, what happened to the boy? This was about a boy, right? This man murdered, these people. What, did he know the boy? Oh, he did for a second. Where's the boy? Don't worry about the boy. It's like, but that's how you started off.
Although I like that that's one of my compliments about this movie was Peter Rabbit 2, not confusing. And it did do things better with its plot than I kind of thought it would going in. Like, when I sort of saw a synopsis of the movie and the trailer, it looked like it kind of a sequel plot, like Homeward Bound 2. Like, oh, the animals go to the city and they're gonna get lost or something.
See, I was thinking more, and they do kind of go this route, but when he meets, I guess, the new rabbit, whatever you want to say. What was he? The, not the uncle, but like the friend of the father or something like that. You know where that's going, and you're waiting for it to happen, but I like it didn't go there in the way where there's a really mopey third act and people have to really think about what they learn. Because, again, I think even the movie acknowledges, that stuff's not fun. We're here to have fun.
Yeah, it doesn't... It has some elements of some backstories you would see in, like, some of the Toy Story movies with a couple of characters in this, without there really being any tearjerker moments in the film. That it's not about them getting lost or anything like that. They go back home a lot, and they go to and from the town. It's not completely hinged on them being fish out of water in a new location. So it doesn't... Even with the title Peter Rabbit 2, The Runaway, I was going into this thinking, it was going to be something like Lost in San Francisco, or and I do love this movie, like Babe Pig in the City or something.
That movie's amazing.
Oh yeah, Babe Pig in the City is great. And if that's the kind of plot you're looking for in a sequel, Babe Pig in the City is underrated as hell.
It really is, man. That is not what anyone ever expects when they see that movie.
Oh yeah.
They're just like, this is a fucking Babe movie? Jesus Christ.
It is.
You just gotta tell them, no, the guy who did Fury Road directed this.
Now it makes sense. I do recommend this. I had a really good time watching it, and we laughed about the ones that didn't land with you, just pretty much the same with me. But man, I gotta give it to this movie for having some really, really hysterical moments in it.
Yeah, it is one of those where I always think, okay, well, now it's gonna lose me. It's gonna just have like these continual bad jokes. But again, like every 10 minutes or so, they'll have like just a really great gem. And then you'll have something like the climax where they'll have several of them in a row. And like, oh, right, okay, good. And you just gotta sit through some groaners that aren't the worst, but I feel like kids would like them fine. You know, I feel like if it's a kid's movie, if it would at least entertain the kids enough without being, like, insultingly bad or anything like that.
It's definitely not.
Yeah, then it doesn't bother me that much. I want to say, too, the effects in this movie, even though half the time it's like, okay, that's just standard CG. The other half, they really look good. Like, they really look like they're there, and they get camera angles where you think, like, you know, where they're really tight together, the lighting kind of changes, and they just look more and more like they're really there. And
they
I'm
have
really
weight
impressed
to
by
them.
that. Yeah.
And I remember thinking that about the first one, too, that the characters really had some weight to them.
Well, one other thing I'll say that I noticed, I even leaned over and said this. Again, I think this is just to show they're more concerned about just having fun than telling, like, an emotional story. Is at one point, you know, the husband is telling the wife, you know, are you sure you want to do this? You want to put the rabbits in space and stuff like that? And she's like, oh, I painted. He's like, oh, okay. And he just sort of walks off. 2 scenes later, you don't see this guy, and then suddenly he drives up to the publisher. And he's like, hey, I want to talk with you. And the publisher's like, oh, hello, twice in one day. How about that? I said, they cut a scene. Because he did not see him that day. It was like weeks since they saw him last. And then suddenly his mood just is a total 180. It's just like...
I told you, they got to get it shorter than Jungle Cruise coming out.
Oh, Christ,
There's also some, like, self-aware jokes with James Corden kind of making fun of himself a little bit.
Oh, it is. I'll be honest, I forgot who even voiced
the
Peter Rabbit. So yeah, no, it's I remember seeing the credits. But I wasn't aware enough to be like, you know, oh, that's a James Corden thing. Like, what were some of them doing?
Like about how people criticizing his voice for being annoying.
Okay, because I was thinking, like, was that criticism of the first movie? I wasn't sure, so it's mainly him, they say his voice.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was saying, like, there's a joke I'm missing here, and it's like, that's what it was, okay.
They say in the movie, like, well, I guess it's just a really polarizing voice or something like that.
That catchphrase got really annoying. The woo!
Yeah.
That was the only one where I'm like, you really need to stop.
I know, and I was like, it wasn't working for me either. I was like, well, I get the intent here, because they seem to kind of be making fun of what people say anytime he trends on Twitter. Mm-hmm. But it still didn't, those what things didn't, I don't even remember if that happened in the first one. It might have, it's been a few years since I've seen it. They bring back the rooster in this, and I enjoyed some of those jokes in this too, like the rooster losing its voice and questioning its own existence when the sun rises anyway.
Yeah, maybe that's a part of why the jokes that didn't land, they didn't annoy me too much, because it was like, well, I could almost see how that could work. So like some of the rooster stuff was fine, but one is like, oh, I didn't need to crow to bring up the fireball. Say, maybe I could even fly. If they wanted it to work, he would just jump and fall. That'd be funny. But
right.
Goes up to the camera, and then falls like that, and I'm just like, nah. But I see you were trying. I see what you're trying to do, movie. I can't be too angry.
Yeah, and they didn't overuse the rooster either. Like, he just kind of comes. It's really just a few times in the movie that they pop up on the fence. I remember laughing at more of their stuff in the first one, but they got me with a couple of them here.
It almost feels like they shot a very standard sequel, and then almost like another director saw it, was brought in, and okay, make it funny. Okay, so he just have the rabbits do this and have them do this line. Well, this one, let's make that a little crazier. Oh, and then let's just change the climax. So you still got some scenes where it's like, all right, that's kind of whatever. But then, like I said, just a really, really good laugh, and they balance out enough, in my opinion.
Make it like The Nut Job, but at the farmer's market.
Yeah. I didn't read that book either.
I need to find out if that's based on a book.
Oh, that'd be hilarious. By the same author of Peter Rabbit.
Oh, yes.
They're both about animals.
Well, it is true. The book is better than the movie The Nut Job. Gangnam Style isn't anywhere in the book. I'd give it, I'd go ahead and give it a B+, because just for how big a laughs I did get out of it. And not all of them did work, but the ones that did, I gotta give it to the movie. Like, a mixture between the movie being a nice surprise, and it is a sweet movie, the actors are good, and I'll give it a B+ just for the amount of times I did really laugh out loud in this. That head on the wall gag, especially.
That was really good.
It was at that moment, because a lot of it I was kind of riding the B a little bit. When that happened, I'm like, I'm in tears right now. I gotta knock this up to a B+ just for that alone.
I'll be a little harsher and say C+.
A C+?
Yeah, that is to say, because it's hard to tell grown-ups to go see it, because I feel like a lot of them are gonna be sitting through some very meh humor and then getting some good laughs. But I also feel like kids would really like this, and I feel like if you got a family and you get to your kids to go something, it's like there is not just good stuff for adults, but the stuff that's good is really good.
Yeah.
But I still feel like this is an okay kids movie that has some really great moments for adults in there, I think.
I'd recommend adults see it too, especially like, it's 9 o'clock at night, like we went to go see it on a Thursday night. Like, I walked in, I was like, theaters are back to normal. A kid's movie really, really late at night, and we're like 2 of 5 people. Yeah.
It was so good getting because I haven't had like movie theater food in a long time, and I know it's crap. I don't give a fuck. I love it. I haven't had it in over a year, man, and I got a hot dog and nachos. I'm just like, oh my god, this is amazing.
I got it. Making the sound, like the sounds that the farmers in the movie were making whenever they were like
that was another great
angrily,
joke.
like
Yeah, it's
loading
like,
their fruit.
Yeah, the farmers, they're the meanest there are, and they're like, you got them looking gruff and angry, but literally everything they do, they're pissed off about. Even putting the food away, they're like,
That is also how I eat my food. Yeah, I'm getting movie theater food a lot now too. That's actually why I'm sweating right now. Nothing to do with the immense heat. It's all butter.
should see they have a butter shower in there now, man. It's weird.
I'm surprised it's taken them this long. Let's get back to normal, America.
Butter showers.
That's what the soap is. And Jared and I will be back tomorrow with we got an early screening of Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard 2. Or did I say that right?
I don't think so.
Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard. Yeah.
I think it's the Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard.
And the first one was just Hitman's Bodyguard.
Or is it Hitman's Wife? No, you're right. Hitman's. I didn't see the first one, so I don't know.
I did. Something tells me it's going to be a much more confusing sequel than Peter Rabbit 2. Thanks for watching.
Later.
Take care.